we're going to go ahead and get started here so we can have the full time. So everybody, the panelists and the attendees, welcome to day 2 of the Student Development Conference, or SDC, up here. Today we have our entrepreneur panel, and it's featuring speakers Kristin Judge from Cybercrime Support Network, Adam Ritchie from Brand Direction, B. Brown from the B Agency, and Laura Khalil from Brave by Design. And so they are all really great people in very amazing leadership positions. So there's some really great advice for you guys tonight. And so on behalf of PRSSA, we want to thank you all for being here, and we want to thank our sponsor, Ann Arbor Spark, for sponsoring this great event. Even though it's online, I'm super excited to hear what everybody has to say. So thank you so much for joining us. So without further ado, I want to introduce Kira, who's going to be our student moderator, and I'll let her introduce herself and get this thing started.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Kira Kliczinski. I am a senior at Eastern Michigan. I'm studying public relations, and I'm minoring in marketing. And then my position here on PRSSA's e-board is I am the Vice President of Public Relations and Marketing. So it fits very nicely. So now I'll have our panelists introduce themselves, and maybe you guys can give a little bit of background about you and your business. So if we want to start with Kristin, and then we'll go Adam, Laura, then Brittni, or B.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am a huge fan of EMU and have been working with them for many years. I helped start the Digital Divas program, which you might have seen at EMU, helping young women from Detroit get into STEM education. So I've been a fan and supporter of EMU. We've hired a couple EMU people. Maddie is one of our part-time employees, and our director of marketing came out of EMU. So very thankful to be here. Anything I can ever do for EMU, I'm there. So I got a funny start in being an entrepreneur. I was a 6th grade teacher. Then I had 2 kids and stayed home for 13 years. Nobody would hire me because I stayed home so long, even though I had 3 college degrees. And I ran for office, and I was a Washtenaw County commissioner. And then I was in positions where I got to meet people and talk to people. They saw my work ethic, and I found a passion for cybersecurity. This was back in 2009. And I met a gentleman who was working in the Obama White House and said, you know, we really need a champion from the elected official side to help us train elected officials on the importance of cybersecurity. So I was very fortunate to start working then. And I got a job with another nonprofit and spent the past 10, 12 years educating consumers, small businesses, congressional leaders, and students all around the country about the importance of using cybersecurity tools and the importance of treating the internet as a place where you have to, you know, pay attention to security. So in 2017, I started the Cybercrime Support Network. January 1, 2018, I left my paying job to run this new nonprofit. I was the only person, and we brought in about $60,000 that year. And we now have 32 employees, and our revenue for this year is going to be over 2.4 million. So our growth has been astronomical because it's such a critical area that we're in. And I've been able to find really passionate public servants who want to, you know, work on a mission. So I'm really proud of the team that we put together, especially our EMU students that are on our team.
Cool. I am Adam Ritchie. I started my agency when I was 26 years old. We do everything from beer to baby seats. We're in Boston, Massachusetts, to treadmill desks, to cybersecurity, to the world's largest swimming pools, to tiny pools like jacuzzi. We do crisis management, media relations, and the thing that sets us apart from other firms is that we take what I call an invention-first approach to PR, where we don't just promote products or services from clients, but we'll go to the client and we'll say, here's what you should make as a product or service. And if you were to make this, it would be incredibly newsworthy. Now go make this and come back to us when it's ready, and then we'll go do our thing. And that's the intro. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Khalil. I am a podcaster and podcast consultant by trade. My podcast is called Brave by Design. It is focused on personal development for professional success and using PR and content marketing, we were actually able to build that into one of the top ranking business podcasts within the first couple months of launching. And based on that success, now I teach other people how to create their own binge-worthy podcasts, especially business owners. So I'm really excited to talk to you more about that today and talk to you about my journey. I got into being an entrepreneur because I really could not hold down a full-time job. And that's actually the truth for many entrepreneurs, is we just do better on our own. And so after collecting what I like to call an unofficial PhD and getting laid off repeatedly, I decided in 2013 to start my first content marketing consultancy, and quickly amassed clients such as Intel, GE, Twitter, Intuit, and more. And today I'm thrilled to see how my business has evolved into sort of the podcasting space, but I'm happy to share my insight and learn from all of our other panelists today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittni B. Brown. I am the founder and principal publicist for the B Agency Public Relations. This is my actual third SDC conference, so I'm so elated to be here with you. I'm also an EMU alumni, proud alumni, and I will be celebrating 10 years actually as a founder under the B Agency, and I actually founded my agency 10 years ago in the EMU Student Center when it was the EMU Student Center, probably before you all were still at Eastern. Thank you. So I'm so excited to be here, and just to kind of give you a background of what our agency does. We are a small boutique agency where we primarily handle client representation, media relations, campaign curation for lifestyle focused clients, as well as nonprofit and impact focused clients who are sometimes more so in the Detroit base, but also on a nationwide scale. And so our niche and our hone in terms of how we manage our clients is we help them become their brands. And that's a curriculum and a mind focus and thought that we own, to where we expand people to thinking outside of the services and products they offer, but what is that story behind it? Because no one will believe you if they don't believe in your story. So I'm glad to be here.
All right, thank you all. Those were great introductions. So I just want to remind the attendees that if any questions that you have for any of the panelists, all of them, make sure to slide them into either the chat or the Q&A box, and then we'll have 15 minutes, right? So starting at 4:45, and then we'll kind of go over any questions that pop up so we can answer them. Okay, so I think I'm just going to get started with some questions. So the first question is for all of you, all four of you. And the question is, how has COVID, I know it's I'm sure you've gotten this question before, but how has COVID-19 specifically affected your business and the way that things are running? And then if you want, we can just start with Kristin and kind of go in the same order.
Sounds great. Yeah, and so for COVID-19, we were an all virtual company. We're in 16 different states. We never had actually a home office, so we didn't have to do that big switch to work from home. So that was helpful. But what we're dealing with as far as COVID goes is COVID scams. The cybercrime has quadrupled from what we can tell since COVID started. So there's a lot of COVID scams around, fake PPE, I've got the vaccine for you, the unemployment checks and the fraud. So COVID has really given us more work to do. So we created on February 27th, we saw it starting to be an issue related to cybercrime. So on our website, we created a blog that we literally added to almost every day, new scams that we were seeing, and we've been doing that since February 27th. So if anybody wants to see what kind of scams are related to COVID, they can go to cybercrimesupport.org and look at our blogs. There's been quite a few that we're keeping track of.
I'm sure there's just a plethora of new things going on with, especially with cybersecurity. Okay, so Adam, anything about COVID-19 and how it's changed your business?
Yeah, it really sucks. It kind of kneecapped us a little bit, and I'm not gonna, sugarcoat this. It screwed us up big time, like nothing I've ever seen. I graduated into a recession, So I'm used to dealing with this. I started my business just before the financial crisis of '08. So I didn't almost trust the good times of the last, handful of years because I'm used to operating in a recession economy. Just that's the way my adult life has been. So this is now like back to normal for me. If you're like in my generation, right? So yeah, I mean, it messed up, but I gotta say, like, it's nice to have a business model that is more James Bond than the Royal Navy, more Bob Dylan than Dylan and the Dead. It's keep it lean and mean, and you can weather pretty much anything.
Yeah, similar to Adam, my business has taken a really huge shift this year. And I think that that's really critical is for those who have had some, we've all sort of gone through changes, but prior to COVID, and Jamie Ward at EMU knows this, I was primarily doing public speaking, going to conferences and events. So you can imagine my business, as it was formerly known, got completely wiped out. And so I had to make some really big changes, and that sometimes that can take some time to figure out, like, well, what direction do I want to go in? So I had to really do an assessment of what I was most excited about moving forward and look at the themes in my life. And I recommend everyone listening, look at the themes, look at the things that you can't not do, that you just keep doing no matter what. And one of those themes for me has always been podcasting. I was podcasting before COVID. I was podcasting like a fiend during COVID and to this day. And I realized, Laura, you have so much knowledge in this space. And as we are more virtual and as we are doing more behind our screens and remotely, what an incredible opportunity to help empower other people to learn how to use this platform and build their businesses off it. So that was a really big shift for my business this year, from public speaking to teaching others how to use podcasting. But it's ultimately been really rewarding because at the end of the day, it's something I really love. And so, yeah.
I would echo everyone to where it's been very challenging, especially as a full-time entrepreneur, to where I'm always on the go, meeting with clients, doing events, things of that nature, to being confined to one space. I would also say it pushed me as a growing expert to really push the envelope of being as creative as possible, not only just for my agency, but the different things that I can implement into ideas for pitching and potential stories as a storyteller for my clients. And so in the beginning of the pandemic, it was just kind of like, okay, so what do we do now? What can I pitch? Because you probably don't care about a new blow dryer that's about to come into the market. We have people that are literally losing their lives. So it was really kind of me sitting back and saying, okay, let me just pay attention and give things some grace, because I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to properly move with common sense at the same time, because I'm scared and everyone's scared. So I don't, I want to just make sure I'm doing the right thing. But then eventually really going back to the drawing board as someone who is a creative and saying, okay, let me look at my clients and look at the services they offer or products and seeing how can their expertise help those who are going through this pandemic with us. And so for one example, I represent a young lady who does a lot of work with children of incarcerated parents. And it clicked to me that these children cannot see their parents due to COVID-19, so they cannot visit them. And then there are children who are actually graduating, so they were not able to see their parents. So that's when I had to, as a storyteller, take a spin and creatively shift and pivot. I know that's the word of 2020, and just say, how can I relate this to it being a story? So it was unfortunately, of course, people's income went down, but you had to really go back to the drawing board and figuring out how can I make this work, but also with grace and giving my clients grace, as well as myself, as well as being very conscious of those who I'm pitching or sharing these stories with. So it's terrible. We're still in it, but now we're kind of adjusting. So I would say just really pushed me to be more creative, but also understanding how to just say no and just say this may not be a good idea right now.
Honestly, that's some solid advice. I feel like, being creative, figuring out what you can keep doing, the Those are great. Okay, so our next question is going to be specifically for Laura and B. What is your most satisfying moment that you can remember as being an entrepreneur?
I would say when people really started paying me. I'm going to be so honest. Because of course, as Laura said, you know, I was the person who, like, I really hated having a full-time job. I wanted to have creative control. I wanted to be able to operate in my genius and when I wanted to. And it's just so fascinating to me to where you never know what direction that your life takes you, and you just have to trust that journey. And I can incredibly say that I've literally trusted the journey. And when someone was like, oh yeah, I want you to represent me and I'm going to pay you this amount of money and you can make a living off it. And then, you know, being as fortunate to have just referrals, I think that's something satisfying. I know it's like, don't always depend on the money, but that's real as a full-time entrepreneur, is making sure that things are secure, because you do have responsibility. So I'll say that people actually trusting in you and your expertise to give you their brands on my end, and just trusting that you'll take care of it. But that gives you more responsibility to where you got to do your job.
How do I even follow that? I mean, that's it. You know, that's what's so beautiful. I will say, I guess, so I'll add another lens on that, because I talked about my challenges of, you know, I was one of these people who, when I worked in the corporate world, I was working in tech startups, and I was constantly told that I was too much. I needed to soften my language. I needed to smile more. I needed to be nicer. I was too direct. I was intimidating men. And so for me, when I left that world and within 6 weeks got my first major client, which was Intel, and I was just, so I'm not going to like flip the finger on this thing on the panel, but that's how I was, like, internally. I'm like, yeah, you see what I just did here? And so it was that vindication of realizing, and I want everyone who's listening to this to realize this: there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. In my case, and maybe for some of you, I was doing a future job in a present role, and I could never be successful when I was pushing my own growth potential down. And so by assuming the role of a leader, I stepped into my power. And so I really, for anyone who's thinking of starting a business, don't wait, don't fear it. The easiest decision you'll make is to become an entrepreneur if that's what you want to do. It's actually all the work that happens after that people don't realize. That's where the real work is. See, Brittni knows what I'm talking about. And so, so yeah, that's what I'd say. I felt vindicated when I realized I could run a business on my own, and I didn't need to be a corporate slave. By the way, there's nothing wrong with working in the full-time world. There is nothing wrong with doing that at all if that's what you want to do. But for the people on this call, clearly that's not our calling.
Thank you both so much. So going off of what you said last, Laura, you know, like anyone who wants to start a business, and you kind of gave some intel. I guess, can I ask a question to all of you guys? What advice would you give someone right now who wants to start their own business? You know, COVID or not, I mean, you know, if they want to start their business, they want to become an entrepreneur, what is a piece of advice that you would give someone?
So following your passion is important, but doing your research is more important. So my heart breaks when I see someone in Michigan open up an ice cream shop in December, far away from a lot of, you know, people, where people live, you know, or where people shop. And I think to myself, what research did they do that told them that an ice cream shop there would be successful in Michigan and you should open in December? And then 6 months later, I see that it's gone. So my father opened up a roller skate shop. He owned, for a little while, a lube shop. I mean, he did all this. None of them made it. He just didn't do, he got passionate. Oh, someone said, oh, roller skating is going to be a really big deal. I'm older than all of you. So, you know, this was back in early 80s. Roller skating was going to be the big deal. So he opened a roller skating shop so everyone can go buy their own individual roller skates. Well, it didn't work. You know, so you've got to not do something that's just, oh, I think this is going to be a good idea this week, or it's a new thing that's coming through, the new shiny, whatever. Do your research. And then if your passion is something that people actually need, then the money's going to come. You know, I opened a nonprofit that no one else was doing what we do. I would have never gotten another nonprofit that was competing with other people that are doing the same thing. I opened one that no one was doing what we do. So I knew we had a better chance of being successful. So follow your passion, but do your research.
Great. Okay. That is some great advice. Adam, do you want to go and say some advice that you would give someone?
Yeah, give yourself years of runway. Don't think about, oh, I'm going to give it like 6 months and see what happens. Like, no, when you do this, you have to convince yourself, I'm going to do this and someone is going to have to kill me to stop me from doing it, and I'm going to die doing this. It might be in a year, it might be in 50 years, it might be in 80 years, but you're signing up for this for life, and that's how you got to look at it. You can't just dip your toe in and see what happens. You really have to commit. And to get talking about taking the long view, there was a New York Times article yesterday that talked about a rice cake shop next to a shrine in Kyoto that's been run by the same family for 1,000 years. So when people say, wow, Adam, you've had your own agency for 13 years, that sounds like a long time. I'm looking at those guys and I'm like, yeah, right. That's taking the long view, all right? So think about it that way. Don't think about it like, oh, let's give it this season or this year. You're in this for life.
I have a lot to say, but I'll keep it brief. First thing, find people who are smarter than you and surround yourself with them. You need to find people who have done something like what you want to do and go suck up all the information you can. Invest in mentors, invest in people who know more. They will help you get out of your circle. If you are around a bunch of people who are full-time and you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to go find some entrepreneurs to hang out with, okay? Because those people are not going to get you to the next level. Second thing, here's how, if you're running a PR business, for example, or any service-based business, here's what you need to know. There's 3 things. You're a subject matter expert in your field. There's a target market that has a need and desire for what you sell, and there's an urgency around what you sell. If you have those 3 things, you have a business that will get you clients. Now, some of you may be listening to this right now saying, well, Laura, I'm not a subject matter expert. Well, excuse me. I'm sure most of the people listening to this are subject matter experts in something like TikTok, where, God help me, I can't even figure that stuff out. You know, I'm like bordering on elder millennial. Like it's beyond me. So there is stuff for all of you that you do know that you can get started with today. Don't think you need to spend 10 years in the corporate world if you've got a great idea and you've been learning about it and building your expertise today.
And I'll definitely keep it short because everything that everyone said has been amazing. Fill a void. Me as someone who wanted to have an agency, there are plenty PR agencies throughout the whole country, especially in the nation. I founded my agency at the time where it was a major bankruptcy and a major political scandal that was taking place in Detroit. And there was just terrible bad press of anybody and anything coming out of Detroit. And this is also the same time with just so much negative news of you can get a home for $1 in Detroit. I knew and was connected to a lot of entrepreneurs who were going to be a part of the revitalization of Detroit. And I wanted to share those stories. So what I did was say, how can I be the human voice in terms of telling those stories of how much amazingness is coming from Detroit and how we're going to rebuild it. And that's how one of my clients became Detroit versus Everybody, the actual brand, because I said, this is what's a negative and I want to turn it into a positive by sharing those stories. So really, really figure out a void and what is the issue that you want to solve, as well as doing the research and making sure that what is going to set you apart from anyone doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you, all of you guys. And thank you for the suggestions, Laura. So going off of that, it seems like a lot of you guys have a pretty optimistic views on what you've done and how far that you've come. But I know there's gotta be some type of downfall or some type of sacrifice that has maybe stuck out. So I'm just wondering if all of you could answer something that maybe you've had to sacrifice to actually be a successful entrepreneur. And then if we want to start with Adam, and then we'll go B, Laura, and then Kristin.
Sounds good.
Sure. If you guys are on social media, there's this glammed out portrayal of entrepreneurs where it looks like they have the world on the string and it's like hashtag crushing it and all this stuff. That is that's like just, it's varnish, What it really means is like, yeah, there's highs and there's lows. There's like crushing it, and then there's sacrificing your nights and weekends to catch up on laundry because you are completely out of clothes, There's also sacrificing 100% of your income for unknown stretches of time when things get really bad. It's still worth doing, totally, but like, everything comes at a cost.
I'll say time. That's the major sacrifice. It's so funny when you said you're looking for clothes because you haven't a chance to wash clothes. So I had to learn to invest in and just dropping my laundry off and getting it washed because I don't have time, and I'll get frowned upon for that, but whatever. But time, and time management is something, and that balance is what I had to learn. And then you can, I sacrificed some relationships and friendships because sometimes some people just don't get it, and you have to think about it in the end. If someone is going to take this out of my hands, I'm going to go down fighting, as Adam said. And that's when you got to let those people go who don't get it. So time for me.
These are great. And the only thing I would add is sacrifice expecting people to understand you and your mission and vision and what you're doing. People are not always going to understand, especially your friends and family may have, may be concerned or worried or not really get it. And you have to be strong enough to understand that your vision is greater than anyone else's doubt. And so you have to sacrifice the need to be liked, to be, and to get a constant external approval, because frankly, you're not always going to get it. You just have to believe in yourself first and foremost.
And that's why not everybody is set to be an entrepreneur. I mean, it's a lot of self-sacrifice, and it's okay that not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes I look to my husband, I'm like, please tell me not to take on another big project again. But I can't help it. It's just something that I do anyway. So I don't fit, like Brittni, I don't fit in a corporate structure. I just always stuck out. And like Laura, people are like, you're just too pushy, or, it's like, I just didn't fit in that box. But if you fit and you can enjoy it, don't feel like you have to go be an entrepreneur because that's where all the big money is. Let me tell you, our company, a year ago, July, I had to put $100,000 of my husband and our personal retirement fund in for cash flow so we could make it. We finally got that money back, and now we're okay. But, it's time, it's money, it's your personal time, it's your laundry, it's all of what everybody said. So if you don't really just have to do it because it's who you are, it's okay. It's not the only place to be. And it's probably 5% of the population that really is an entrepreneur in their bones. And I think the four of us just are. We don't know how to do anything else.
All right. Those are some really insightful answers. I feel like, touching on the time management and the perseverance when it comes to monetary value and self-acceptance. I have another question that I would like to ask both Kristin and Adam that kind of goes off of that. I know we already mentioned some skills that an entrepreneur should probably have, but do you guys each want to list maybe like 2 or 3 skills that you think are the most useful as a business owner that you've learned throughout the time that you have owned your businesses? And we can start with Adam.
Sure. I'll say idea creation is a skill, and it can be learned. It's not taught in school, but you've got to have ideas and own them. And then when you have them, pick one and sell it hard. Don't try to sell in 20 random ideas. Put all your weight behind one concept at a time. So skill 1, idea creation. Skill 2, budgeting. Learn how money works in your business. They also don't teach this a lot, especially in PR school. You don't know what campaigns are supposed to cost at all. You're like, oh, is that $1 million campaign, or is that like a 30K campaign? That you've got to learn that stuff, and no one's going to teach it to you, unfortunately. Maybe Jamie will. Jamie, please teach this to them. And then third skill would be navigating challenging personalities, whether it's nightmare clients, whether it's cynical media, whether it's entitled influencers, whether it's unreasonable bosses, whether it's jealous colleagues, internal politics. You're going into business, you don't have to like people. People will try to stop you from being successful, both inside and outside all the time. So yeah, managing those personalities is a skill, it's an art, and it's another thing that should be taught.
So as you can tell, you have to have a little bit of an attitude. You gotta walk into a room like you belong there. And you know, if you want to succeed, you can't walk in all timid. You better have a good handshake before COVID. I don't know if we're ever going to shake hands again, but you got to walk in like you're supposed to be there. You know, I had a meeting in the Situation Room in the White House a few years back. And, you know, my husband was like, oh, you got to take pictures. I'm like, no, I'm going to walk in like I'm supposed to be there. I'm in the Situation Room. Do you know who I am? You know, of course I was nervous as all get out, but you've got to build relationships. So if you do anything, start your LinkedIn now. I am only here because people trust me when I give them a call, and they hear me and they listen to me and they say yes, because I've made a reputation by being in the community of cyber, for me specifically. But, you know, I'm not a PR agency, but let me tell you, my entire job is PR. Maddie was saying before we got on that I was just on another speaking engagement, you know, an hour ago. And then yesterday I did 2. And before that I did more. And, you know, I used to be going to conferences and speaking all around the country all the time. So you have to take the time to build relationships and walk into a room like you're supposed to be there. I don't care what room it is, even if it's the White House.
That's awesome to hear. I feel like going off of Kristin, what you just said about the networking and how important that is, gaining connections and stuff like that. I do have a question for all of you guys. As entrepreneurs, how do you think that, how important has networking really played a role in bringing success to your business? Because I feel like many jobs have networking involved, but it seems like as an entrepreneur, it kind of takes in a different aspect to that. So Laura, if we could hear from you first.
Well, you know, essentially, as everyone on this, I mean, it's like I'm going to read everyone's mind right now. We all run businesses based on referrals. That is the most successful business that I'm sure everyone here is like, yeah, my phone rings. I get calls from people. People hear about me. Sure, we do outbound. Sure, we do connect with people and do business development. But I'm sure everyone here is running largely on referrals, because that's really how successful businesses run. Having said that, I spend, and please, for everyone who's listening to me, please connect with me on LinkedIn, because I am like LinkedIn crazed. And the reason for that is I love to connect with different people from different backgrounds. You never know who is going to give you a referral. So don't just focus, and this is the best advice one of my business coaches ever gave me. She said, Laura, don't just focus on the people who you want to work with. Focus on who is speaking to them, who is also influencing them, who is also in their sphere that you could get to know. And that could be a referral for you to that person. It's the best advice I've ever received. And it really helps broaden your mind and open your horizons. I recommend everyone be on LinkedIn. I have a lot of young people, college age folks, who are connected to me on LinkedIn, and I'm watching their careers and I'm like, boy, if I were that smart at 20 years old, I mean, I don't know where I would have gone. You know, but it behooves you to start now, start sharing with the world. We want to, and especially because you're young, people are excited for you. They're more excited for you than they are for us. Trust me. Okay. They're like, oh yeah, you've been around this block, lady. We've seen you before. But when you're young and you're killing it, you're going to get so much more excitement from people in different industries. I almost guarantee it.
That's awesome to hear. So Adam, if we could hear from you, how networking has played a role in your business?
Yeah. More importantly, you know, about what it can do for you guys. So before this panel, and this is going to be for every panel you're ever going to attend, connect with the panelists before the panel. In the week leading up to the panel, see who's going to be on the thing and reach out to them then. Because I can tell you, after this panel, we're all going to hear from you, and it's all going to like blend into one unless someone has a really great message. But 0 people reached out to at least me before this thing. And every time someone does, it's usually like 1 person per panel that does. And they go, hey, I see you're speaking on Friday or whatever. I'll be there. You know, then I make a point to look for that person's name, and now we've got a connection, and you got to us before the rush. So that's not just this panel, but every panel you ever go to in your life with someone you want to network with. The tip for networking for you guys is don't just reach out to someone and say, tell me how you got your start. Because no one gives a shit. And you can find that stuff online if you really wanted to. We much prefer it if you come out to us and say, like, tell us what we can do for you. You say, hey, can you connect me with this person? Or do you know of a job here at this company? It looks like you're well connected. Just come straight out and tell us. Help us help you. Don't just like do this 45-minute like dance around the bush thing before you get to the question you really wanted to ask us. Just tell us what you want and do it in a way that makes us want to help you.
I love to hear it. Brittni, do you want to answer the question?
Yeah, so you can probably see every time that someone says something that I agree with, I'm going to have a facial expression, or I'm very like animated. So please excuse me. But absolutely, you never know who's watching. And that's social. That's why you're out doing whatever you're doing. You never know who's watching. And that's one way that how I started my agency when I was 21 years old. And no one really took me serious at the time. But then eventually it was like, okay, I see that you're operating things to where everything you touch, you get things done and you handle it. And so that was my mindset. From that point on to everything that I touch and I do, I'm going to do my best at it. And so my form of networking was, I don't care who you are, I'm going to just do whatever you ask me to do. Hey, can you go buy a Starbucks cup of coffee? I'm going to do it as quickly and as efficiently as I can. You never know who's watching and you never know who's in a room. And I guess the most important thing from this is you always want to have a positive impact to that person who's speaking in a room on your behalf when you're not in the room. And so that's one way of how I've lived off of 95% of my clients are referrals. And it's just because of me doing a good job, as well as even if no one has worked with me, they see my work ethic. They know that I'm going to get the job done. And even if I can't, I'm going to be transparent and honest. So you never know who's watching, and always try to make that good first impression. Even though if you can't, as Adam said, just make those connections and get straight to the point, because as a full-time entrepreneur, you have so many things that are on your plate. So that email is just something that you're going to either forward to your admin, or you're going to say, okay, I got to get back to that. But it's just like, get straight to the point. What do you want? Let's see how we can get it done.
All right. And then Kristin, we'll have you. And then this is going to be we'll have one more question after this, and then we'll go into some other questions from attendees. So Kristin, about networking?
I think I did.
Oh.
Did I do networking? I think I did networking, didn't I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I guess that was what that was my the best skill. The most important skill for me was the networking. And so,
You're right.
thank you.
That's where we go.
So I think too, my husband pushed me years ago. Every time you meet somebody, he's in sales. Every time you meet somebody, go to LinkedIn, follow up, and link with them. And I was just like, oh, why would I do that? Well, but I did it. I have over, 11,000 people, and Laura was already on there, but I just connected with Brittni and Adam for sure. But think about, if you do start with one company and then you leave that company, you lose all your connections because they don't let you take your email with you from that company. And so my LinkedIn has been my way to stay connected and keep all the people that I gained from that job, and then that job, and then that job. They're all in my LinkedIn because I took my husband's advice and added people as I met them. So it's a really great tool. And I also do job searching there now. So when we have a new job at CSN, I either go to Jamie and EMU, or if it's another kind of job, I put it on LinkedIn. So it's a really good place to find jobs too.
And speaking of LinkedIn, I actually have this question for B. A few of you have mentioned LinkedIn and the importance of it and how much you use it. And when we were figuring out the panelists and going through it, I was looking at B's LinkedIn, and she was just heavily endorsed in all different things, like hundreds. And it was press release writing, social media, and she even does event PR. So I guess because it was so advertised on LinkedIn, I mean, what kind of skill have you really grown to like the most or do the most?
Everything you said, I do it all the time, every day, everything. Of course, my niche, I love the most the event PR side of it, because I can merge my love for event curation with event branding and public relations and merging into one, to where it's like a full package. So typically, A lot of people come to me when they're opening a new space or they're releasing a product or a campaign, but the opening of new space, especially in Detroit, is very, very big, to where I can merge. Well, I have a whole list of vendors who we can reach out to, as well as I can make sure that the branding is right, because that's what we really, really focus on, is that personal branding side, to making sure that people know that this is your event when they walk in the door, but at the same time handling media relations all under one house. So that's how I got started, from doing events at EMU. I was actually operating events at EMU as it was a job. So it wasn't like an extracurriculum activity. It was like, oh no, this is a job for me. I was a co-founder of EMU Fashion Week, which is now Fashionality. And from that point on, everything that I do, I have a keen eye on how it should look in the experience for either a consumer, target, or a client. So I would say that the best thing of one of those skills that I'm endorsed is event PR, as well as my my curriculum training. So I've done a lot of trainings on personal branding for Blue Cross Blue Shield, a lot of healthcare companies, even the Better Business Bureau of Southeastern Michigan. So I have a passion for teaching people to bring that good out of them and understanding their personal branding, even if you are in a corporate entity, because when you're operating and working for a company, you want to excel, and that project or that position that you have, that is your company. That's your little baby company as well. So that's another thing under my curriculum, under becoming a brand, which are two things that I'm passionate about under those skills.
Awesome. That's awesome. So let's see. I wanted to talk about, I know we had a question in the chat about personal brand, and I think it might, I know we're not at the student questions yet, but I think it ties into here perfectly. And I know I saw Adam already kind of answer it, but I'm wondering if we want to just take that question on and kind of go around to all of you guys. And it was from Kevin Hillman, and he asked, what tips do you have for establishing a strong personal brand? And I know, Adam, you already kind of typed yours out in the chat, but do you want to just go over it and kind of reiterate what you said for everyone?
I'll save you guys time and hear from everybody else.
Okay, got it. So Kristin, if you want to tell us a little bit about personal branding.
Yeah, personal branding is similar to what I was saying earlier, where if I call someone, they'll answer the phone because they know I don't call them unless there's something, you know, if you're trying to call into a governor's office or somebody who's, you know, really busy, you don't just call them unless you really need something or you have something to offer, you know, and you're going to make it short. You say, do you have time for a 15-minute call? So, you know, I have a reputation and a brand as a leader, and it has brought me to this point because I've been able to continue building those relationships. So in building your own personal brand, you want things like integrity, honesty, professionalism, follow through, someone they can trust, and someone that, you know, benefits the relationship both ways, not just someone who's always taking, but, you know, what can I do for someone else when I ask them if they can help me? So for me, it's been building that brand of people that would trust me because I've been trustworthy and an honest broker.
Nice. Laura, I feel like we haven't heard from you in a second.
Here we go. You know, very simple, personal brand. What do you want to be known for? How do you want people to know who you are and what you do and when to call you? And I'll share an interesting story. Actually, it's one I just heard this morning. I was working on a client's podcast, and we had a guy we were interviewing who is a trial attorney. So he's like a personal injury lawyer. Okay. So we have all seen the personal injury ads. I don't care where you live. You have seen those ads. You have seen Jumana if you're in Detroit. You have seen Mike Morris. You have seen Call Sam, all that stuff. This guy had a really interesting approach, and I'm going to share it because it's not what we normally think. He said, I just am really open, and I have a weekly show where I talk to people in my community and I talk about what's going on in our lives. And he's been doing it for 3 years. He builds his trial lawyering business not by hitting people over the head as a trial attorney and saying, call me when you slip and fall. He builds his business because people like him as a human being. They trust him, and he is open with them through what's going on in his life. It's a totally, you know, it's not the approach we always think of, but it's been incredibly successful for him. So what do you want to be known for? That's what the first question I'd ask. What do you want to be known for? Take what Kristin said, great advice. Like, what are those traits, right? Write them down and begin to think, how do I infuse those into everything I do?
I like it. Kind of just walk the talk, not just talk the talk. Brittni, I know you kind of mentioned personal branding. Do you have anything else to add?
I think everyone what do you want to be known for? That's it, self-explanatory, and do what you want to be known for.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I will go on to another panelist question or attendee question. So Kylie Gilligan has asked for all of you guys, what makes someone stand out in public relations? So skill, experience, anything. What do you think? And if we want to start with Adam.
Come back to me in 1 second.
Okay, got it. Kristin, do you want to give us your thoughts?
So, we've just gone through a process this year where we hired a PR firm, and then we went separate ways after about a month and a half, and then we hired another PR firm. So I'm not a PR firm, but I hire them, so I can give you the perspective. The first one we hired, we thought it was going to be a really good fit. We were so excited about it, and what they pitched to us was not really what we were going to get back. And when we started to see that there was a disconnect in what we thought we were going to get and what we thought we agreed to, and then what we were actually getting, we asked to part ways. We lost some money. I didn't leave them, without the funds, but that won't always happen, I don't think. So you've got to be really, really clear in what your customer should expect. Like, write down a 1-pager on this, a social media post ×4. Like, it can't just say a campaign that reaches audiences. Like, that's not going to work. And I learned a big lesson in being a consumer of PR firms, and now we're with one that gives us timelines and details, and so it's got to be really important. I wish I had known all of you before. I wouldn't have gone through that. But just make sure you're really crystal clear with your clients from the client perspective.
Okay, I'll give you a quick story about standing out in PR as PR students, right, trying to get into the field. The way I got my first job was to pull a stunt where I turned myself into the product and showed I was a better fit for this team than any other candidate on the slate. So I found out, like, you target an agency that you really want to work at because of the clients, right? I was like, oh, these guys have Ben & Jerry's, they've got, Timberland, they've got all these cool brands. And then you find out that, like, the position is for, like, a German baby doll company. And you're like, fuck, I am a guy in New Jersey trying to apply to this agency in another city, and it's for baby dolls. They are never going to pick me in a million years. So I went to the toy store and I bought a Ken doll, and I redesigned all the packaging, and I made it the Adam Ritchie Cone doll. Cone was the name of the agency. And all the features of the doll were pulled from their job description. Like, it does this, it has friendly voice for pitching media, it has good writing skills, it's da-da-da-da-da. And on the back, I put my resume, and in the interview, they're like, now, as a guy, how would you feel comfortable, like, working on a baby doll account, potentially? And I said, I'm so glad you asked that. And I put it on the table. I said, I feel very comfortable playing with dolls. And that got me the job. So that's, it's standing out. That's how you stand out. It's like, I hate the term personal branding. I love the term personality. So have a personality, deliver your stuff with style, play the game, but break the rules in the right way. It took me like 15 years. Like, I live and breathe. I'm not wearing it right now because I'm on the treadmill desk, but I survive in a leather jacket. It's like, I wear it to, like, black tie events, and I wear it to rock shows. And that's just I love this jacket. And people are like, oh, that's the PR guy that wears the leather jacket. I mean, it's that dumb and that simple, but it's just something that comes from you that helps you be memorable.
That was so good, because it's so funny, because people know me as the short one who always has glasses. Like, I have always different glasses. If you know me, you know I have different glasses. So that was so good, Adam. Being very thorough. Just being very, very thorough as someone in terms of representing an agency, especially PR, because it's not something tangible sometimes that you can't go and buy PR and you get it and it's put in a bag. It's something that you have to be very thorough when you're explaining those deliverables, when you're explaining, as that experience that Kristin went through. It's like, I have a thorough conversation with individuals or companies when they come to me, and I have an understanding of, are you ready for this? And if not, let's see how we can aim to getting you to that point. And then being very transparent of, this may not be the time, but we can help you build those blocks to getting to that point. But just being very thorough in terms of standing out is something I would definitely say is important, and just being as memorable as you can. And people will respect your honesty, because it goes a long way to where, if people sometimes in some realms, especially in PR, a lot of people are just, hey, I can do this, and I give you details and charge you this crazy amount, and there's no results that's accompanying with that. As well as understanding that you can also create your own press, and that's where the innovation of creativeness comes into play. Is something that you can definitely learn from someone like Adam, to where he took a traditional field and really, really innovated it to where it's like, it makes the perfect sense. And so just really, really honing in on those different skills that you can also add to offering a service. I know my lane is educating. I dealt with a lot of people who really didn't know what PR was or knew what they wanted. So that was my job, to educate them so they can build that trust and wanting to work with me. And if not me, you can work with whomever else, but just being very thorough in what you're offering.
All right.
Can I add one little?
Yeah. I was gonna say,
teeny weeny. You and I've experienced this in my business. People will throw money at you if you have enough social proof. If they have seen you do it for other people. I mean, I've gotten contracts where I'm just like, my eyes are like popping out of my head. I'm like, am I really getting this much money? And by the way, if anyone hears that right now and is like, ooh, I don't like that she's talking about money, you're always going to have problems with money. So you got to work on your money mindset, my friends. Okay. So we're here to make money, to, invest in ourselves and invest in our community. Money is not something to be ashamed of. So when I have gotten those contracts, it's all because of social proof. I've done something that they've learned about or they have directly benefited from, and people will throw money at you for that, and go get it. Okay, go get it.
I think that's great advice. Go in and get the money, get the bag. All right. So I just want to have you guys answer this one last question from Sakaya Wade. And she just wants to know, what have been your favorite clients to work with? I think since it's 4:55, I think we only have time to answer the first half of that question, but I think it would be interesting to hear. Adam said that he likes to speak with students like us and inform people. So if you three ladies want to go with the rest of your answer.
I'll start. Elected officials. Elected officials, good public servants, not politicians. There's definitely a difference if you've ever been in the back room with any of them. Real people that want to serve and are in elected office, that really care about their constituents. I really love working with them on security. People are running for office that really want to improve their communities, helping them understand social media and blogs and podcasts and those kinds of things is really something that I enjoy. Also law enforcement that just wants to help people safe, 911 dispatch centers. That's government is really something I have a passion for.
I would say I've worked with a lot of amazing brands who have fueled movements, as well as I've worked with some brands that have really pushed the envelope of, we got embarrassed on Shark Tank and we were called color cockroaches, and now it's a multi-million-dollar company that's sold in Target, like the lip bar. It's pushing the envelope and going against the grain of what people are telling you can do, and being able to be a part of that journey is absolutely amazing. So my favorite clients and campaigns are working with people and brands who want to really change the narrative or the traditional that's in place for our society.
I'll add a little bit of a different flavor, because the most important thing I look for, I really don't care what my clients do. Like, if you want to start a podcast, I have a client now, we're doing a legal podcast. I know nothing about legal, doesn't matter. And I've had clients, in tech doing really dry software stuff, doesn't matter. What matters to me is the person and the personality. And first and foremost, if I'm going to be in a room with you, working with you, I better like you and we better get along. And so that is where I start. I'm like, if I don't like you, peace out. If I like you, if we gel, then we will make magic together. But that for me is number one.
Yeah, the best clients don't even feel like clients. They feel like co-conspirators in the cause of doing something fun and interesting. And they pay their bills on time.
Those are some great answers. I love to hear that. So unfortunately, the time has come for all of the questions, but we want to thank you all, Kristin, Adam, B, Laura, for attending our event. And you guys honestly seem like such savvy professionals. And I think we were really lucky to have you all here. I think this was some great information for anybody. And so I'm really glad that everyone was here, got to listen to you guys, because I think that was awesome. And so just a shout out for everyone attending tonight. If you were an honor student seeking to fulfill your intellectual cultural experience, just make sure you attend. If you haven't already attended yesterday's, you'll have to attend 3. So you'll have to do tonight's and then tomorrow's. And then just email us at easternprssa@gmail.com, indicating that you would like to receive the honors credit. And then we'll help you figure that out. But we have another panel tonight at 6 o'clock featuring graphic designers, and Maddie will be the host of that one. So that'll be a great event as well. So it's only an hour long as well. So if you want to come, register and attend. But I think that's it, and I think we can wrap up. But
Thanks everyone
so much.
Thank you. I'm so
Thank you.
inspired by all you panelists. It's been so fun. Thank you.
back at ya.
Yes,
Bye.
thanks for having me. Everyone be safe.